evening, everyone. I'm Marlene Toby, and I'm chairperson of tonight's dedication. Tonight is a night of celebration and memories. It's a night we can all be proud of as we dedicate this building for future generations. Many of us have many happy memories of time spent at the community center. Now our children, grandchildren, and their children will have the opportunity to build life memories at our beautiful new community center. Included in our happiest memories over the years has always been the ice cream social put on by our garden club. I would like to introduce Helen McAllister, president of the Sylvan Lake Garden Club.
I want to welcome you all to the Sylvan Lake Garden Club Ice Cream Social and the dedication of the community center. The Garden Club was founded in 1939, and we've been putting up on this ice cream social now for over 40 years. This year, or the coming year, the Garden Club is going to have some programs which should be of interest to other people in the community, such as a panel on composting, a demonstration on floral arranging, and a speaker on native plants and natural flowers. Check the newsletter to find out when these programs are going to take place, and you're welcome to come. I want to thank all the volunteers for the ice cream social, because we certainly wouldn't have been able to put it on without your help. Sylvan Lake is a wonderful place to live because of the people who love this city. In 1953, one such person built a house and moved to Sylvan Lake, where 3 of his children were born. John Martin Sr. was someone whom everyone liked because he was genuinely friendly to all. He was a letter carrier for 30 years. He was on the Planning Commission in 1962 and served as building inspector for a time. He also served on the City Council. If you look around the community, you'll see the mailbox structures which he built, which certainly added to the attraction of the city. A big project on which he worked with other residents was adapting the buildings from the Free Press camp to the community center. John Martin, our city manager, as a teenager worked with his father and brothers to finish the basement, install shelves in the library of the community center, and they also finished the lower room so it could be used by the public. John Martin Jr. began working for Sylvan Lake in 1984 in the DPW department. 2 times he served as acting city manager in 1989 and in 1991. He has been our city manager since 1992. John's knowledge of Sylvan Lake is vast. In honor of the service and dedication of this father and son duo, the Sylvan Lake Garden Club, Carol Toby and Mike Grasser have donated the 2 ginkgo trees, which are out in front. And there will be a sign welcoming our residents and the guests to the Sylvan Lake Community Center. Thank you, John.
Well, we all have a couple tears right now. We'd like to call, as we look to our future, we have to know where we come from and look at our past. And who better to do that than Helen Jane Peters, our city historian. She'll talk about the early years of the community center.
What an evening this is. What a joy to be in this beautiful new building and see all of you here with us tonight. Well, we are here tonight to dedicate our new community center. As we do this, let's look back to see the history of this property. In the early 1890s, Merrill B. Mills acquired hundreds of acres in what is now Sylvan Lake. He sold this land in 1891 to the Sylvan Lake Improvement Association, and they proceeded to lay out 2 large subdivisions with winding roads and parks. The Sylvan Lake Inn was built on this very property. It included a dance pavilion, a bowling alley, a bathhouse, riding stables, a billiard parlor at the cost of $25,000 back in 1893. In 1895, Merrill Mills developed the interurban that ran from Pontiac to Sylvan Lake to bring the patrons out to the inn. In October 1903, just as the inn was 10 years old, it burned to the ground, and it was a total loss. When they were building the foundation for this present building, they found some of the foundation from that old inn 100 years ago. Later, Merrill B. Mills donated the land to the Detroit Free Press to build the Fresh Air Camp. Arthur Mosley, the Sunday editor of the Detroit Free Press, had the idea of sending a few of the newsboys to the fresh air, to farms out in the area, in the Detroit area, for a vacation, boys that couldn't afford it. So he put a short announcement in the Free Press for farmers to take these boys in, and he soon found out that when they got there, the boys were expected to work for their room and board. So he stopped this immediately, and that's when he came up with the idea of the camp. On June 24th, 1906, Arthur Mosley ran a little box on the children's page in the Free Press, and it said, "Wrap up a nickel in a piece of paper and send it so you can send a poor little crippled girl or a poor little crippled boy to the camp in the country for a week's vacation." So the first day of camp was August 7th, 1906, on this very property. In 1909, the first girls were admitted to the camp, and the staff was enlarged, and more children were given the opportunity of 2 weeks in the country of good food, sunshine, fresh air, and lots of fun. Breakfast was preceded every morning by the best appetizer you could have, a dip in the lake. In the early years, water was heated over bonfires to wash the dishes. But first they had to scoop the water out of the lake to even have the water to wash the dishes. A supervisor would stand behind these children and swoop the mosquitoes away. There was a big swamp down here by the lake. In the summer of 1912, our old community center was built, and it was completed that year. And the fireplace was an old fieldstone fireplace, if you remember, in our old community center. And thanks to Joanne Eberhardt, she had our inscription above the fireplace saved. It's taken out carefully and put back, and it's now in our new community center. It says, "Warm the hand and cheer the heart." And it's just beautiful in our new community center. In 1919, a barracks was erected, big enough to house all the boys not living in cottages. In 1920, the Countryside Improvement Association gave the dining hall, which was the next building over, our room B. And later, a barracks for girls was added, along with the kitchen and small pump house and other needed buildings. In all, there were 20 buildings on this property for the camp. Meals were served and planned by trained nutritionists who were mindful of the undernourished children from Detroit. A bell called the hungry boys and girls to the dining room. And milk, so often lacking in their daily diet, was plentiful at camp, and they could drink all they wanted. In 1941, a camper sent this letter to the Free Press and said, "There was no preaching, but the whole spirit of the place was intended to teach the essentials of honesty, decency, cleanliness, and order. The lessons were indirect, the sort that were breathed in with the air at an age when impressions go deepest." One of the head counselors said that most of the campers were from underprivileged families in Detroit. For most of them, going to camp, it was their first trip away from home, their first bus ride, their first time to wear pajamas to bed, and in some cases, the first time they could have all the food they wanted to eat. They were children who needed something special to take home with them, and they needed something more than new clothes and nourishment and new skills. They needed and got a good dose of being wanted. By the time the children left camp, they had a new attitude toward life. They consumed as much as 8 or 10 cups of milk at one meal. They gorged on fried chicken, potatoes, vegetables, salads, and desserts for the first time, many of them. They caught fish in our lake, and the counselors would freeze them so they could take them home to show their families. They had birthday parties here. Sometimes they had as many as 20 birthdays in a day because they all said, "It's my birthday," and the counselors didn't check. They were just happy to celebrate with the children. The Free Press Camp was sponsored by the Detroit Free Press and was supported by individual contributions. Over 70 different organizations kept the Free Press Camp alive for over 55 years, from 1906 to 1961. At that point, the Free Press turned the land over to the City of Sylvan Lake, and now this site is our new community center. We can all thank Merrill B. Mills, who gave the property to the Detroit Free Press back in 1906. But we should also thank the Detroit Free Press, who gave the land to the City of Sylvan Lake in 1962. And now, our city manager, John Martin, is going to give us the rest of the story.
Before we do that, I think it's an appropriate time. We have a presentation for the Free Press. We'd like to call the Vice President and Editor of the Free Press, Paul Anger, forward for this presentation. This is a picture circa 1920 of the Detroit Free Press Fresh Air Camp.
I will be very brief, but I do want to say thank you for this and for remembering the Free Press in such a special way out there. It seems like it's the confluence of really tradition and people doing the right thing, coming together as a community and supporting each other. Free Press, I'm very proud of the Free Press, and I can't take any credit for that because I wasn't around then. But I can say thank you to you and say how proud I am. And I just want to say one other thing. I was here a year ago. My wife Vicki and I came and congratulated you on breaking ground on such a wonderful project. And we didn't really know anybody in Silver Lake, and now we know a lot of people here. There are familiar faces here. It's good to see you again. We've made wonderful friends, and thanks to Chuck and Marlene, we've had occasion to come to Sylvan Lake often, and we're going to continue to do that. So I've got a place back at the office to hang this, and I'm going to hang it proudly. So congratulations on this building, and really for just all that you've done to make this happen. And on behalf of the Free Press, thanks for the recognition. Appreciate it.
We could never thank you enough for this property, and just to let you know how much it's cherished, we're greatly appreciative. John did not know of the trees that were being planted tonight. So I'm sure that he's a little bit emotional at the moment. This is a very special day in many ways. But John's going to talk about the times when and what happened right after the city was deeded the property.
Luckily for you guys, most of the things that I was going to say have already been said, so this will be very short. You're welcome. I'm going to briefly, very briefly, just get you from 1961, 62 up until now, sitting in this new building. As Helen Jane said, the property was deeded to the City of Sylvan Lake in 61. In early 62, it was the city's task to decide what to do with it. Were they going to keep it, use it for the YMCA, use it for the West Suburban Boys Club, or were they going to use it for the City of Sylvan Lake and its residents? Well, obviously they decided they were going to use it for the City of Sylvan Lake and its residents, and we're very grateful for that. How many of you remember the old community center? I do. Who said that? I think, no, never mind. The old community center started out as two buildings. There was the building that had the stage in it, if you remember, and then there was another building that was a little bit lower, and they were two very separate buildings. In about 1976, the buildings were combined into one with a little breezeway kind of thing, and in that little addition they put two restrooms. Prior to that, there were no restrooms in the building. So all of the functions that happened prior to that, they had used the restrooms, which is that little outbuilding down there. We were thinking about, for saving space in here, to do the same thing, but decided against it. When they first decided what they were going to do with the building, especially the first section with the stage, there was a group of volunteers who went in, they cleaned it out, they gutted the building, they insulated, they put paneling in there, they reshingled the outside with the cedar shakes, and I was too young. That was not before my time, but I was too young to help. But my dad and my brothers did, and there is a plaque somewhere that lists all of those volunteers, and I do not know where it is. Now, we will find it, but and I did write down some of the names because the ones that I kind of remember. Like Weidman's, there's a big name, Dahlgren, yeah, they're still here. Payson's, yep, all just more than I can even remember. I'm trying to visualize that thing, and I'm having a hard time. But when this was completed, I got to tell you one quick story. One night, they were doing the outside, the cedar shakes, shingles on the side of the building, and they had pizza and beer, and which is always a good thing. And they started in two groups, and they started at that corner, and then they came around and they met here. Unfortunately, when they met here, they were about that far off with the cedar shakes. So my dad never did say the reason. I think it was just poor management. But anyway, so this addition was put in between them to combine the two buildings. Created the restrooms. It was great. The lower level, the mid-level, still had nothing done to it. About mid-70s also, they actually came up with a design when they did this middle section to move the city offices into that part of the building, the second part that was not finished. And of course, that didn't come to fruition either. What did happen was, as I think Helen McAllister mentioned, we did finish the basement. We put in paneling, drywall, the whole bit. We wanted to create a Sylvan Lake library down there. Unfortunately, the building was just too wet, so it didn't work out real well with the books and the dampness. So we ended up taking it out. Later on, we did redo it one more time and had the kids club down there. I don't know how many of you remember that. Debbie Gann headed that up. But we finished that the mid-level room, and put in the floor, the walls, the kitchen area, and everything. And it was a great room. It was wonderful to have. You could see, we had windows on three sides, so you could see outside three ways. I do have to tell you one thing, though. Well, one of the things that we did, or had to do, per the engineer's requirement, was we had to run cables through the rafters both ways with turnbuckles to keep the walls from falling out. And we also had to put, you remember the 2 posts in the middle of the room? Those were to keep the roof up. So it was already in kind of rough shape, but it lasted for, another 15 years. So we did that. I'm going to tell you just a little bit of my personal involvement with the community center. Again, Helen already mentioned it, but from a young age, with my dad working on the building, he spent a lot of time down here. And my brother laid the floor in the basement that had the shuffleboard court in it that the leisurely set used. And we, family, worked on just about every aspect. So the building is pretty special to me as an individual, and I know it's special to you, very special to you that have used it, spent a lot of time down here. In the early 2000s, actually the mid-90s, we started discussing whether it was a good idea to to spend a lot of money to try and fix the old community center, or if we needed to really look at demolishing and starting over. We had some engineering studies done, some planning reviews done, everything pointed toward tear it down and start over. There were just too many problems with a very, very old building on a very, very old foundation. And the tri-level aspect took a little bit of a way for being able to use it. So that brings us up to about 2003, 2002. Actually, let's step back. We had a committee, we had a Parks and Rec committee that met right about 2000. And one of the big things that we worked on was the community center, not this one. And doing some programming, trying to figure out what we should have if we have a new community center. And in that committee, we had Kathy Robbins, Brian Schultz, Peggy Houle, Marge Kumar, and myself. Spent a lot of time. It didn't go real far. It was in 2003 when Rick Erickson, Gail Hunger, Jack Hunger, Patty Harrop, Brian Schultz really made a big concerted effort to get the city to really understand that we really needed a new community center. So, and as you know, there was a ballot or a question placed on the ballot in 2005. It did not pass, but it laid the groundwork. Then, in 2006, City Council placed another question on the ballot for $500,000 to create a new community center, and that one passed. So immediately, another committee began. That committee consisted of Brian Schultz, Aaron Lorenz, Sharon Marina, Jack Hunger, and myself. And we spent many, many, many hours, weeks, that turned into months, working with Steve Auger, the architect, coming up with this design of the building that you're sitting in right now. The things that were looked at, again, were programming, layout of the building, orientation of the building and the parking and the pedestrian access, trying to get the best views, the best exposure for the sun. All that stuff came into play. And as Helen James said, one of the great things was that we got to keep that Pewabic tile. Thank you, Joanne. And got it put into the new building. I'm going to close with just one quick, well, I got a couple more thank yous, but what we want to make sure, and what the committee has wanted to make sure and stressed all along, is we want this to be a community center. Back in the early 70s, it was a community center. There were ping pong tables, there were pool tables, there was a pinball machine, they had dances. It was busy, and it was great. We want that for the community again, so that the community can use this community center, not just for rentals, so that you can come down and you can use it and enjoy it. It's everybody's, it's all of ours. Of course, I'm really looking forward to having our meetings down here. But want to thank Rob Gallus, who is a resident from GH Group, and John Hart. They were hired as the construction manager for the project, did a fabulous job. Mike Grasser, who is also a resident, who was hired to do the landscaping and did a great job. And the Home and Garden Tour, who for many years held the Home and Garden Tour, raising money, and it paid for all of that wonderful kitchen that you see back there. They donated $30,000 toward that kitchen. And they also donated $10,000 toward the irrigation system. So thank you very much for all of that. Very last thing, I want to thank you all for coming to the event, first of all, and it's not done yet, but thank you for listening to me ramble. And I really do look forward to using this community center as a community center. Thank you.
I'd like to call Mayor Paul Hungerman forward, and he's going to talk about where we go from here, and we do want to recognize some people that were so instrumental in getting us to the point that we are today.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. I just want to talk a little bit about the process that took place that allowed the City of Sylvan Lake to build this community center, and also to thank the many people who put in countless hours to make this building such a success. As John stated, within weeks of the millage proposal passing, a building design committee was formed, and with the task to design the best building possible, but staying within the budget approved by the residents. The committee consisted of the city manager, John Martin, Sharon Marina, Aaron Lorenz, Jack Hunger Jr., Brian Schultz, and an architect hired for the project, Stephen Auger. They met at least once a week for many months. Using surveys submitted by residents, they designed a building that would meet the needs of the entire community. This was a Herculean task. Can you imagine building a building that met the expectations of an entire community? There were some disagreements, but the committee pressed on, and a final design plan was presented to City Council for approval. After City Council approved the plan presented, the city then hired a construction manager to oversee the construction phase of the project. The GH group, led by Rob Gallus, a resident of Sylvan Lake, was chosen. Rob, along with his partner John Hart, began the construction phase as soon as the weather allowed. Pam Schill, the GH group's controller, handled draws and spent much time making sure that the building being constructed stayed within budget. Rob worked with many subcontractors, often asking them to discount their prices to allow for the best possible building at the lowest cost. When constructing any building, taking it from the paper to the actual building, many decisions are made every day. I want to let everyone know two subcontractors who went way out of their way to help with the day-to-day decisions that saved us many dollars while still maintaining all the needs. Resident Randy Forcier and his company Zilka Heating and Cooling was an immeasurable help. His expertise in this field, discounted rates, and many hours spent have allowed to have the city have the best heating and cooling system at the lowest price. Thank you. Cobra Electric also spent numerous hours researching the entire electrical plan to make sure the wiring was safe, up to code, and still met all the needs of the building. I want to thank them. Resident Bill Alpers chipped in and installed all the low voltage wiring that allows for the audio system and security system to function. With summer coming to an end and many wondering when the building would be open, resident Mike Grasser went to work. Mike provided a landscape plan, installed an irrigation system, graded and hydroseeded, making the grounds look as nice as the new building in a very short amount of time. I want to thank Mike. Whenever a city takes on a project of this size, it affects all the employees. I want to thank the city manager, John Martin, clerk and treasurer, Denise Clipper, city attorney, Paul Bebo, Deputy Clerk Susan Whitaker, and Department of Public Work employees Brian Majors and Kevin Hartman for all their contributions to the successful completion of this project. Depending on which timetable you use, this project has been underway in one form or another for the past 8 years. I want to thank the past council members, Stuart Bandeline, Bob DeZenko, Pete Peters, Rick Erickson, Jack Hunger Jr., Brad Conkey, Aaron Lorenz, John Shep, Sharon Marina, and Eric Wiegand for their time and commitment to this project. I also want to thank all the members of the Planning Commission, which there are too many to mention by name, for their support towards this project also. In the spring of this year, with the building well underway, City Council formed a committee to go over how we would rent the building, for how much, etc. Members of this committee were Nicole Menick, Marlene Toby, Patty Harrop, John Gallus, Russ Meskin, and Mary Johnston. They spent many hours going over how we did this in the past and ways we could improve on this process with the new building. This work led to ways the building will generate dollars to help offset ongoing costs the new building brings to the city. All of this is very important, especially in these current economic times that we all face. I want to thank the Rules Committee. Over the last 5 to 10 years, we in Sylvan Lake have been fortunate to have dedicated residents who are willing to work at fundraisers to raise dollars for particular things that benefit the entire community. This community center has been the primary beneficiary of one such group. The Home and Garden Tour raised over $40,000 in the last 5 to 6 years and donated the money to the city, which was used to purchase a top-notch kitchen components and an irrigation system for this very facility. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. A few years back, a different group of proponents of the Ferndale Beach held multiple fundraisers and raised over $50,000 to build a permanent bathroom facilities at the beach and a brand new play structure. And I want to thank that committee. Every year, the Sylvan Shuffle moves through the streets of Sylvan Lake, and they donate the money they make to the city to use as they see fit, and I want to thank that group also. All of these events not only raise money on a voluntary basis for the city, but they also forge new relationships that only make the city a better place to live. This all leads to more events taking place within the city. As I speak, Mitch and Sharon Black are organizing a fundraiser to purchase an outdoor projector and screen to view movies on the community center grounds right out front there. They're also planning on using proceeds to construct an ice rink, so the new community center will be used in the winter months as well. September 6th is the date of their event. There will be a party here, tickets costing $45 to include hors d'oeuvres and beverages. If anyone interested, you can purchase tickets right out front from Mitch or Sharon Black or up at City Hall. I just want to encourage everybody to do so because the money goes for a well-needed cause. Also, this is a great way to meet new neighbors, and one of the primary is one of the primary reasons this building exists. I'd also like to thank the Sylvan Lake Community Church for allowing us to use their facilities for the last 4 or 5 years since our other building has been closed down. When I first started putting together notes for this speech today, I realized the enormous task this project was and how many people were so involved and in so many ways. I quickly found out that it would be impossible to mention everyone's involvement because so many did so much. It made me think that community center is the most accurate name for this building, for it truly was built by the community, for the community. Thank you all for coming.
I would like to recognize some very special guests who give to us all the time. John Scott is our county commissioner. Where's John? Right, he's here for a presentation.
Thanks. On behalf, this is really great. Great evening today, great building. I remember the old building the first time I came here shortly after I was elected in 2003, and it was rather interesting. It was cold. I don't think the heat was on that day, and it was a different building than it is today, and this is beautiful. And of course, I'm sure that the City Council is much happier meeting here than in the church, and you have your own home again. But I'm really here. We have a proclamation from Oakland County, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm going to read the last 2 paragraphs. It says, whereas in 1962, the fresh air camps where a disbanded and campground was sold to Sylvan Lake, and a new center will continue the traditions of public service, providing needed activities for residents of all ages while enriching the quality of life for all in the community. And now, therefore, Bill Bullard, our chairman of the board of the Oakland County Commissioners, myself, John Scott, York County Commissioner, together with the entire County Board of Commissioners, we hereby proclaim commendation on this special occasion of both the dedication of this new community center and the, of course, the ice cream social today, August 21st, 2008. And I'd like to present this to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Say congratulations. Thank you. Not only to you, but to everybody here. This is beautiful. And you've got this is a beautiful community. I just live over on the other side of Cass Lake in Waterford, so I drive through a lot, and I'm around here seeing everybody too. So it's a great place, and you've got a great community. So thanks again. Thank you.
I'd like to call forward Steve Betts, who is representing our U.S. Congressman Joe Nolenberg.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight on behalf of Congressman Nolenberg, who unfortunately is out of town. But I want to congratulate the residents on making the commitment to build this lovely center. It's not an easy thing to do, and that's a great sign of the civic pride that the residents have here in Sylvan Lake. And doubly than that, I mean, it's a great sign of the civic pride you have and the turnout you have here today for this dedication. Maybe the ice cream helped somewhat, I don't know. But, you know, it's always a good way to get people to come out. But anyways, on behalf of Congressman Nolenberg, I want to congratulate you on that. And I just have a small certificate here of congressional recognition honoring the dedication of this community center. And I want to congratulate you and wish you all the best. Congratulations.
I'd like the representative from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society to come forward for a presentation to the city.
Thank you. Kara Kazanowski. Hi, I'm Kara Kazanowski. I'm Vice President of the Historical Society. And on behalf of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, we would like to present this replica photograph of the Sylvan Lake waterfront and the fresh air camp. It's a panoramic overhead, and we would like to present it to the city for this new community center. And we'd also like to say that the original photograph was given by former residents Martha and Andy Pepper to the Orchard Lake Museum, which is our headquarters. I'd also like to put in a plug, you can get replica copies of the photograph, unframed, that were all really handled and coordinated by Helen Jane. We have them for sale tonight for $50, or you can go on our website, www.gwbhs.com, or come to the museum open house every Sunday from 1 to the second Sunday of the month from 1 to 4 p.m. Anyway, this is really a project of Helen Jane and shows her love and of Sylvan Lake. So, if you like.
John Scott. Okay. State Representative Chuck Moss is here for a presentation.
Thank you very much. Looking around this building, it's a gorgeous facility, and I think it exemplifies the excellence of Sylvan Lake and is a tangible expression of the community. You have a very long and proud tradition here, and you have a new chapter that is almost taking it to another level. So on behalf of the state of Michigan, signed by myself, also Senator Mike Bishop, we have a state proclamation, a state tribute expressing honor, commendation, and congratulations to the community of Sylvan Lake upon the completion of your community center. Thank you.
This concludes our ceremony. We look forward to many, many happy years and lots of memories at our new community centers. Thank you so much for attending.